Welcome into the Maize and Blue Review Sharpening the Edge podcast bowl prediction show. Along with Lucas Reimink, I'm Dennis Fithian. We're ready to kick this thing off. Lucas, if people did not know, the bowl season is underway.
It is. It has started. Kicked off a couple hours ago. So, yeah, it's exciting times of the year for college football fans. A lot to keep track of with opt-outs and coaching changes and all that sort of stuff. But this is where the people who really know football can really stand out. So, excited to talk about it.
There's tons of bowls, and for this particular show, we have decided to take on a lot of the games. I don't know. I've got 41. It depends if you want to go to the Cricket Celebration Bowl and add in 42, but there's 41 bowls. We're going to pick 26 of them all the way up to December the 28th. So that's, 60 some odd percent of the bowl. So if you're a college football fan trying to, handicap these games, figure out who you want to play, bowl prediction, late, sometimes you're able to do that. That's what we're here for. And with that, let's kick this thing off. I am going to hit refresh because, as I said, there was a game in progress. And so for that, let's bring it up and see more than just a big white screen. If we can get a final. No, not yet. There's a minute to go. UAB leading the Miami Redhawks 24-20 with just over a minute to play. And in this game, the Redhawks were getting 11 points. So go ahead and tell everybody how you liked Miami plus the points, but UAB maybe to win it.
Yeah, I don't know. That would have been a non-play for me. I like UAB more as a team. I just think they're better. But, wouldn't have played that one for sure. Not my expertise there, those two teams.
Well, I knew that Trent Dilfer was going to be with the team, with the Blazers. And then, the thing that jumped out with UAB is Dwayne McBride. He's the nation's leading rusher at 155 yards per game. So that had me thinking about taking the Blazers. But when it comes down to double-digit points in a bowl game, I also, if I was going to bet it, would have taken Miami. But it's very easy to say since I'm looking at the game and I see that, it's almost over and that Miami is going to cover that 11. So I'm not going to be able to take credit. I could try to take credit for that one, but I'm not going to be able to take credit. So let's get to a game that has not been played yet, but it's getting ready to kick off here at the top of the hour. Exploria Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, the University of Texas, San Antonio against Troy. This is for those that don't know, the Road Runners and Trojans. And Lucas, what I would say about this one, there's a lot of bowls that are not watchable. I would say this one, considering these are the only two teams that are matching up in the bowl season that both won their conference, I'm going to say that this actually, the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl, is a watchable game. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a pretty good game considering, the conferences that these two teams come from. Both won 11 games. Obviously, it's hard to win 11 games no matter what conference you play in. Both these teams have good regular seasons. I am on the Roadrunners, UTSA. I thought at 2.5. If you can get it at that number, go grab it right now. Some of them might move out to 3 before kickoff here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. The reason I like UTSA, Frank Harris, stud quarterback there. For the Roadrunners, there was some thought actually kind of behind the scenes, back channels workings, that he could enter the portal and end up jumping to a better Power 5 school. But UTSA did a good job kind of talking him back off the edge. He's going to come back to UTSA. Sounds like they came up with a pretty competitive NIL package, decided to sort of keep him at the school there. And I like this game. I like as long as he's playing, I would take the Roadrunners. I think Troy for 11-2 team is, like I said, it's hard to win 11 games. Like they had a good regular season, but I don't think their 11 wins are near as impressive as what UTSA did this year. So I like the Roadrunners to cover that 2.5 there in that game.
I agree with you. And Harris with a 71% completion percentage, that's pretty good. And as you go and just talk about a game that's watchable, both teams on a 10-game winning streak, and they both won their conference. So I'll watch this one as soon as we're done here and check it out. You can't say that about every one of these games, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to sell the Road Runners and Trojans. I actually do like that game. Let's get to the next one. And this one is the Scott Satterfield Bowl. Cincinnati and Louisville. It'll be a chilly Fenway Park coming up Saturday. I say chilly. I'm guessing it is going to be chilly in Boston. Coming up this weekend, the Cards are favored by 2, and they'll have Deion Branch, the former Patriot, as their head coach, as Satterfield and 10 of his position coaches have left for Cincinnati, but they will not be present for this game. The Bearcats also have, Louisville also has 9 players in the portal. So this is a crazy one. And Louisville is -2.
Yeah, a lot of drama in this game, like you mentioned, with the coaching staffs there. So going back a few years ago, Scott Satterfield had, he came in, he was like a highly regarded coach when he got the job, had a good first year or two. Ended up interviewing for the South Carolina job in one of the off seasons, either 2019 or 2020, somewhere around there, and didn't get it. Came back to Louisville. Reporters asked him like the following week or a little bit later about the interview, and he was pretty honest, and he just said point blank, he's like, yeah, I interviewed for the job, tried to get it, but I didn't get it, so I'm back here at Louisville. And he never really got comfortable since he said that at the interview. Obviously, a lot of people around the Louisville program were not big supporters of him after that, and it makes a lot of sense why. So while Scott Satterfield going from Louisville to Cincinnati might not make a lot of sense, it kind of makes sense when you consider in the context there. And then they hired in Jeff Brom, who's kind of their native son. They wanted to hire him when they hired Satterfield originally. He turned him down back then. And this time around, the timer worked out better, so he was going to take the job, and he will be the new head coach at Louisville. So it's kind of a firing almost, but it ends up as Scott Satterfield ends up taking the Cincinnati job, can sort of save some PR there for himself. As for the actual game, Louisville only has actually 3 assistant coaches. Star quarterback is out, their best running back is out, their best wide receiver is out, and their best cornerback is also out. Just way too much unknown there for me to believe in this Louisville team, who just kind of got gutted, both from the coaching staff and from players entering the portal, going to the draft, such things. I think Cincinnati also obviously has some coaching stuff that they're working through as well, with Luke Fickell going on to take the Wisconsin job. But I have more confidence that Cincinnati will want to be in this game as opposed to Louisville. So I will take Cincinnati plus the points.
I agree. And, I like, bowl games, and I've been to a couple down at Ford Field for whatever, when it was, quickie change or whatever it was called. But the one thing that I am not on board with is cold weather open air stadiums. Like, if you want to play it in Detroit in a dome, I get that. Playing in like Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park for the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, who's going to that? I don't know if you think that's a good idea, but I don't.
Yeah, the over under. I was thinking about the under because it is cold. It'll be outside. Neither of the offenses have like their good players, but it's 39, so it's just too low for me to take. So yeah, I'm with you there though. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Should be a little bit warmer out in Vegas, and that's where our next bowl is, the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. That'll be fun for the announcers to keep rolling off their tongues. Oregon State, this line was double figures, but it's down to 8.5. This is another one. And you'd say, wow, man, I can't wait to see Anthony Richardson. He's awesome for Florida. He's going to the NFL. Oh, wait, what about John Kitna's son, Jalen Kitna? Well, he's been arrested on child porn charges. So those two, along with 12 players hitting the portal, makes you at least have to consider the Beavers here, but you also have to lay 8.5 points. How did you see it?
Yeah, the 8.5, I didn't really see any edge there. I like the under 53 the most in this game. No Anthony Richardson for Florida there. Former Ohio State Buckeye quarterback, actually, Jack Miller is going to start for the Gators in this one, his first start down there for Florida. Both these offenses like to run the ball. Both Florida and Oregon State are good at running the ball. They both like to do it. Florida in particular have 2 good running backs that are both playing in this game. Trevor Etienne, little brother to Travis Etienne, former Clemson star, now plays for the Jaguars. And he's also got another good player, Montreal Johnson, in that Florida backfield as well. But when I was looking at like the data for this game, Oregon State's actually 20th nationally in rushing yards allowed per game. So while both teams like to run the ball, both teams are at least decent at stopping it. Oregon State's quite good at stopping it. When they played Oregon, like the last week of the regular season, they held them to their lowest rushing, one of their lowest rushing totals of the season. And I think Oregon has a really good offensive line, so I think that says a lot about what Oregon State's front seven is capable of. Kind of all those factors combined with the quarterback question marks. I don't really like Oregon State's quarterbacks. They've had a couple different ones play this year. I don't think any of them are particularly good. And I haven't seen anything of Jack Miller yet to make me give a ton of confidence in him either. So I will take the under 53 in that game.
I would rather be sitting up in that pool area in Vegas watching this game with a lot of basketball games as well, rather than being at Allegiant Stadium watching this one. I'm going to take the Beavers. In the previous bowl, Jason says if you like sushi, then the wasabi bowl is the way to go. I don't like sushi, but I think they have like wasabi, like peas or something that I actually like. You familiar with those?
I've heard of those. I've had those.
Yeah, they're
not
not
my favorite, but
no, I wouldn't say they're my favorite either. But that's where we're at with these beginning bowl games. Also, 3:30. Looks like it's gone for maybe a little bit. I don't know. All of a sudden, we're getting some communication issues. See what that is. Be my phone? Is it me? No. What about you? How about now? Could be gone. Are you
there
still?
we go. I hear you.
Ah. All right. We apologize for that. I didn't know what was going on there, but we do go to the next game on Saturday. That is the Jimmy Kimmel. I wasn't going to say fond things about Jimmy Kimmel, so maybe he threw something in there. You got Washington State and Fresno State, with Fresno being -4. How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, this game could be really exciting. You got two good quarterbacks, Jake Haener, Cam Ward. It's kind of a fun quarterback matchup. Jake Haener probably has some NFL future. Cam Ward was a highly touted transfer from the FCS level when he transferred over to Washington State. But both defenses actually surprisingly good in this game, which is probably wasn't what you think of when you think of Fresno State and Washington State. I tend to think offense, but both the defenses actually are relatively good. They're 25th and 33rd respectively in points allowed per game. Neither offense is actually very explosive either. So while you think, you see these two teams, you think offense, I think it's actually the opposite this year. Neither offense is very explosive. They're like 50th and 73rd in scoring offense. So my favorite bet in this game is the under 53. I think it'll be more of a low scoring game. Could be exciting though, because you have some good quarterback play, but I think both defenses will both win out towards the end of the day. So I like the under there.
Yeah, I was looking at the Cougs. Washington State, they played Utah and Oregon tough this year, so they had that going for them. But Fresno won the Mountain West, so trying to balance it out. I think at the end, I will take Fresno, and I will lay the 4 points. As there are some games in here that you call watchable, there are some that you might say are unwatchable. I put this one at 5:45 on Saturday in that category, the Lending Tree Bowl. Rice at 5-7. They get in along with Brett Favre's alma mater, Southern Miss, and Southern Miss is favored by 6.5 over the Owls.
Yeah, lay the point, Southern Miss. I think Rice is really bad. They're only 5-7. Their 5 wins. Ready for this? Louisiana, UAB, Louisiana Tech, UTEP, and McNeese State. So quite the pair of teams there that they've beaten. And to back that up, they also finished 1-4 in the last 5 games. Really not. I just don't think they're a very good football team. I think Southern Miss is like a decent football team, even though they're only 6-6. So I like Southern Mississippi, there to roll big in that one.
Yeah, Frank Gore Jr., the running back for Southern Miss, and Rice giving up 166.8 yards per game. I like Gore to go off, and Rice is in because they didn't have enough teams that were bowl eligible, so they go to some kind of academic formula, and that's how Rice ends up getting in here. So congratulations getting into the bowl game. I don't think you're going to win it. I'll lay the points as well. We get to 3-letter acronyms going out of here: SMU and BYU. University Stadium, Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is the New Mexico Bowl, and SMU is -4. You see the big over and under there at 64. You got some key players like the top wide receiver for SMU is not. He's going pro and he will not play. And also on the other side, BYU, you got their starting quarterback is questionable, and the backup is in the portal. So a lot of interesting things that you got to monitor in this game.
Yeah, just because of that reason, just like you mentioned there at the end, the questionable quarterback situation there for BYU. I've got no official play in this game. I was leaning BYU. Just internally, my numbers, I like BYU more. I think their defense is way, way better than SMU's. SMU doesn't play hardly any defense whatsoever. But BYU, they changed play callers probably through the year as well. So they've been better since they changed play callers because they started out the year really rough. But with the quarterback question marks there, I just can't place enough confidence in it to bet it either way. But I would lean BYU.
Yeah, I noticed that SMU played a game this year where they beat Houston 77-63. That was an NCAA record, and that was a football score. Amazing in that one. I'm with you. I'm taking that pick. Let's go to the Toyota Stadium in the Lone Star State, the Frisco Bowl, presented by Serve Pro. You've got the Mean Green of North Texas taking on Boise State. Big number in this one. The Broncos -10.5. Lucas.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points with the Broncos here. North Texas fired their head coach, Seth Luttrell. Boise State's season started off really bad, but then they kind of turned it around. They switched quarterbacks and offensive play callers midway through the year. They got things rolling down the stretch. And Mean Green play absolutely zero defense. They also have coaching issues, guys transferring out. They're 110th in scoring defense. So I like the Boise State Broncos to be able to control the line of scrimmages there on both sides of the ball. I think they roll in this game, so I'll lay the points.
I agree with you to your point about their defense. North Texas giving up 460 yards per game. How are you going to bet on that team? I think I would like 20 in the Frisco Bowl. All right, that takes us down here. I'm pushing the wrong button. Now I get us to Monday, December the 19th. We've got Marshall and UConn. It's called the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Now, this is my kind of bowl. Now we're talking. I wouldn't mind being in Myrtle Beach. Another big number, though. Marshall giving up double-digit points here, low over and under, but 11 points if you like the Thundering Herd.
Yeah, I do like the Thundering Herd. I'm going to bet them as well, lay the points. Justice was on Marshall earlier than me this year, but ever since he started mentioning them in the first few weeks of the season, I started to catch on to what they're all about over there. They play good defense, and I know UConn was a great story this year. I think Jim Mora Jr. has done a great job just getting UConn to a bowl game this year. But this is a really bad matchup for them because Marshall is really good at stopping the run. They're top 20 in defensive stuff rate. UConn is a very run-heavy team. They don't have much of a passing game to speak of. I just don't see them able to be turning out a bunch of yards against a good Marshall defense here. And I think eventually, maybe not at halftime, but by the end of the game, I think Marshall will be covering the spread. So I will lay the points there.
Man, I think you're on top of this one. Yeah, and impressive from UConn to go from 1-11 to a bowl game, but I do think it stops here. Marshall did beat Notre Dame, and also that defense, they rank 7th nationally in scoring D. That's pretty good. I don't see UConn, you said the matchup as well, for them being a running team and Marshall being good on defense. This looks like the Thundering Herd big there with you. These are games on Monday, December the 19th. Just the one. Now we get to the team down the road here, Eastern Michigan, back at a bowl game. They're in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. The Spartans of San Jose State University, they are -4. I don't know if you know this or not, Lucas, but in 1987, these two teams played in the California Bowl. I know because I'm an Eastern Michigan alum, and that's the Eagles' only bowl win. Back then, they were the Hurons, so they haven't had a bowl win since they've been the Eagles. They're on the hunt for one.
Oh, wow. I did not know that backstory there. That's good info. Yeah, I don't really have a play here in this game. I think the 4 there, I like San Jose State to win the game. I don't really like it, though, if it's above a field goal. over and under the total seems about right to me. So I didn't really want to touch either of that. I will say though, I do think Chris Creighton at Eastern Michigan has done a really good job there. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't gotten hired from either a max, like a bigger max school, or like a lower level Power Five school somewhere. Because I think he's done a really good job there at Eastern Michigan. It's hard to win there, but he's done a good job. It's just traveling, playing the San Jose State team, who's like solid, not great. Plays in a better conference out west. I just think anything over a field goal, I didn't want to take either side, so I wouldn't touch this one personally.
Yeah, I'm going to take Eastern here, but a lot of it is, because of the things like that. Finally, Eastern just, at some point you think they have to get a bowl win. And for Creighton, he hasn't won the MAC, but he's had Eastern. I mean, he's like Mr. Bowl eligible. They've gone to bowls 5 out of 7 years. Not too shabby when they hadn't gone to one since they had gone to that one back in the California Bowl back in the 80s here. But I like them this year because they came up big in state, winning the directional trophy, the Michigan MAC trophy as they call it, beating CMU and Western this year. And keep an eye on Jose Ramirez, the defensive player of the year in the MAC, and the only player in college football to average more than a sack per game. I'm taking Eastern to come up with their first bowl win since I was in high school. So mark it down. All right. Enough on the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. That takes us to the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. I don't know much about the roofclaim.com, but I'd love to be in Boca Raton. Liberty and Toledo. The Rockets are a big 4.5-point favorite out of the MAC.
Yeah, no play in this one either. DeQuan Finn is back at quarterback for Toledo. He's a good player, but this Liberty Flames defense is probably the best unit he's faced all year. But then Liberty themselves, they have a bunch of question marks. Obviously, Hugh Freeze moving on to take the Auburn job. Not really sure, the locker room where they're at in terms of Liberty's players. How many of them actually want to be there? Not really knowing. They know what their next coach is going to be, but they don't know. He hasn't started yet, so there's a lot of uncertainty there. I just don't like any of the numbers here enough to be able to play this one. Toledo and Liberty, I don't know. I was leaning over, but I think Liberty's defense is pretty good, so I didn't want to touch it. So no play there for me.
54, the over and under. I looked at the last 3 games that the Flames played, and they gave up gigantic numbers on the ground. And meanwhile, Toledo won the MAC, and they run for 236 yards a game. It's a big mismatch, and it's a late trend when you look at this one. That's why it's one of my picks of the bowl season. I love Toledo by double digits over Liberty in the Boca Raton Bowl. That takes us to Wednesday, the 21st. We got Western Kentucky and South Alabama, the old Hilltoppers and Jaguars in the New Orleans Bowl. And you've got Southern Alabama. It said USA favored by 4.5. I'm like, who's that? That's South Alabama. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to take the points, South Alabama here. Quarterback Austin Reed for Western Kentucky had a really good year, but he entered the portal, so not really sure, where he's going to end up, but he will not play in this game for Western Kentucky. And then on the other side, South Alabama's head coach got a lot of consideration for some bigger jobs this offseason following the Jaguars' 10-win season. They played UCLA tough early on. They played really salty defense, very stingy. And I think over the course of the time with Western Kentucky's backup quarterback, I'm not really sure, how good he'll be. So I'll lay the points there with South Alabama, -4.5.
Yeah, I will too. But this is one of those stay away games when you start looking at the transfer portal and injuries. I mean, what are you going to do? South Alabama, I'm looking. They give up the 3rd fewest yards per game in the Sun Belt. If that makes you feel good, if you want to bet it, it's enough for me to pick them. But I don't know if I would, go heavy on the Jags in this game. You're going heavy on any of these games. You might want to check yourself for a second. That takes us to Thursday, December the 22nd. We're going all the way up to 28 picking these games. So that's 26 of them. We're about halfway through. And now we're getting into some name recognition as we got Baylor and Air Force. And the Bears are favored by 5.5. And for Air Force, the aptly named Armed Forces Bowl.
Yes, I'm going to lay the points with the Baylor Bears. I don't just hate the troops. This is just a football play for me here. Air Force runs the triple option. But they haven't faced anything all year close to this Baylor defensive line, which is just gigantic. They're in a sort of like a hybrid 3-4 there that Dave Aranda likes to run. They have gigantic defensive linemen that they plug the gaps with. I think it's a bad matchup for Air Force for that reason. I have a hard time seeing the Bears defense give up a lot on the ground, and they've also had extended time to figure out how they want to defend this option offense. And then I think on the other side, they have a big offensive line, good run game. Quarterback play hasn't been great all year for Baylor, but it's been solid. And when they control the line of scrimmage, their offense has a lot of success. I think they'll be able to do that against Air Force. So I will lay the points.
I think those are all fine points. I'm going against you in this one. I do think the best running back is Richard Reese, the star freshman from Baylor. But I like Air Force. They won the Commander's Trophy for the first time since 2016. They average a best in the nation, 330 yards rushing per game. And Baylor, just looking at it, 44th versus the run. If they were top 25, I would think I'm going to go with Baylor, but being in the 40s makes me think Falcons, and I'll take those points. So I'll go against you in the Armed Forces Bowl, and I'll take Air Force. As a matter of fact, I'll take them outright. Oh, there we go. As we go to Friday, we're getting closer to Christmas, and you got Louisiana in Houston in the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah, very exciting location there. As for these two teams, I don't think either of them are all that impressive. Dana Holgerson has a terrible record in bowl games as a head coach. He's like 2-9, something like that. He tends to just kind of opt out at the end of the year, just kind of focuses on recruiting for the next season, both in the portal and with high school players. I would guess he would probably follow a similar path here in this game. And then Clayton Tune at quarterback is expected to play. I'm not fully convinced he will. Because just last week he accepted an invite to the East West Shrine Bowl there for Houston. So I don't actually know if he'll play. As of right now, it looks like he's going to. But because of the quarterback uncertainty there, I'm not going to touch this game.
I'm not going to touch it either. It's like at some point you got the Sun Belt, you got the AAC, and for all of you Sun Belt and AAC fans, you're like, I go with the Ragin' Cajuns because I like their nickname. And also they're getting 7 points. And what you said about Houston's coach opting out usually this time of year and, getting his hair done or whatever that is off the fact that he's running, I'm with you. I'll take the Ragin' Cajuns. But with that, a great amount of stats behind me. That is getting us to 6:30 on Friday, a week from today. And you got Wake Forest, a team that you bet a lot this year, or looked at. It seemed like you bet them a lot. And they're taking on Missouri. These two teams look like, though, teams that are headed in opposite direction. Lucas, Wake Forest lost 4 of its last 5. Meanwhile, Missouri won 4 of its last 6. So you have to put that into play. How did you look at it?
Yep, I don't care. I'm taking Wake Forest. Lay the points. My numbers have liked Wake Forest all year. It's really just kind of led by Sam Hartman, quarterback there. A.T. Perry out wide, his best receiver. Both of them are going to play in this game. There's kind of been some speculation that maybe Hartman will enter the portal after the game, but none of that's obviously come out yet. He is going to play, so for that reason, I like the Damian Deacons. And over for Missouri, they are missing 2 of their 4 starting secondary players, 3 of their 7 starting front defensive lineman players, their starting quarterback, and their starting receiver are all either opting out or in the portal. So just a lot of question marks on that Missouri defense, especially, and also their most important positions, quarterback and one of their best receivers, maybe their best player on the team, and Levitt there transferring out. So I'll take Lake -1.
Dude, that's it? That's all they're missing? I'm with you. Once you see all that attrition, it's hard to take the Tigers despite the trend. If you gave me $100, would I be able to figure out what the Gasparillo Bowl means? If I gave you $100, would you tell me what the Gasparillo Rilla Bowl is?
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Is it something to do with the mortgage, Union Home Mortgage, Gasparilla? I'm going to say it's a flower.
Sounds like it could be.
Sorry, what is a Gasparilla. See what she says.
Here's what I found.
It's a pirate festival. There you go.
Hmm.
The Pirate Festival Bowl down in they're going to play it in Tampa where the Buccaneers play it. Makes sense to me now. Okay, let's take you to a week from tomorrow. That means what? Is that Christmas Eve already? Wow. That gets to the Middle Tennessee San Diego game, the Brady Hoke Bowl, the Hawaii Bowl. How about Coach Hoke getting ready to go out there and gets a trip to Hawaii, and he's favored by 7 points. Things are good for Laura Hoke because she gets to follow her husband out there to the island to watch the Aztecs take on, what are we talking about, the Blue Raiders from the Conference USA.
Yeah, and like a lot of Brady Hoke coach teams, the Aztecs like to run the ball and play good defense. And Middle Tennessee is pretty much the polar opposite of that. They want to chuck it, air it out, or an air raid spread. They don't play hardly any defense. So I think it's a very interesting stylistic matchup here. But because of the uncertainty, I'm just not really sure how that matchup will play out. So I won't touch any of the points there. San Diego State 7 seems about right to me. 49.5 also seems very, very close to how I think this game will go. So no official play there.
I'm going to give everybody a tip, and you passed the test, Lucas, because as I looked at this one, there were about 5 or 6 bowls that I'm like, I don't know. I'll take a deep dive. And I just kept going back, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's some, all right, here's a little factoid. I just kept coming back to this one and looking at the rosters and looking at the numbers. And this was the hardest game to handicap on the board. Middle Tennessee State had some big wins, and they had a bunch of bad losses. Meanwhile, you could say the same thing about San Diego State. Huge upset, but then they walked in and got beat at home. I don't know. And to add in, you go out to Honolulu. I mean, are you really thinking about playing football? Or are you thinking about being out on the beach and like hanging out at the White Lotus or something? Looking for some of the people that are checked into the hotel there. I can tell you what I would be doing, but I'll take Brady Hoke in his 3rd year because I'm a fan of the Hokes, both Laura and Brady. That's why I'm picking San Diego State and laying the points. All right, let's keep it going. No games on Christmas. The NFL, though, will be playing on Christmas. We're down to the last couple. Look at this. New Mexico State, Bowling Green. That's right here down the road at Ford Field. The Falcons favored by 3.5 in the Quick Lane Bowl.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points with Bowling Green here. New Mexico State, I just don't think is all that good. Former Minnesota head coach Jerry Kill is out there coaching out west with the Aggies. Bowling Green's quarterback is actually pretty good. Like, I watched him a little bit. He can spin it a fair amount. I think I'll have a pretty good day against this Aggie defense, so give me the Falcons.
I'm with you. I don't know how many times you say this or it's funny or not, but I think Bowling Green will kill him. I will lay the points as well. Bowling Green just shooting up 75 to take on the New Mexico State Aggies. Let's get to Tuesday, and you've got now Georgia Southern out of the Sun Belt, and they're taking on Buffalo. This is one of those revenge games because you got Georgia Southern's quarterback. He's a transfer from Buffalo, and he played a lot. So this is a tough one. Georgia Southern favored by 3.5 against the Max Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia Southern. Low revenge aspect there, like you mentioned. And I think Clay Helton's actually done a pretty good job with his Georgia Southern program since he took over. I think they cover. And I'm not that high on Buffalo. They play like fairly good defense, but I don't really like their offense. I think Clay Helton their program's trending in the right direction. I think he's done a pretty good job transitioning Georgia Southern away from the triple option, which they have traditionally played on offense, and sort of transitioning into a different style. I think he's done a good job there. I think Georgia Southern gets the win and the cover there in that game.
You mean the Camellia Bowl, I guess you should say, if you're really even going to be accurate there. I'm with you. I like Georgia Southern, but I like them because of the revenge factor with the quarterback. That plays big to me. The same day at 3:15, you got Memphis and Utah State. Memphis out of the, again, AAC. And then the Utah State? They're out of the Mountain West Conference. So here we go. You got Memphis -7 in this game in the First Responder Bowl.
Yeah, so Utah State here has had a couple of key opt-outs on offense, running back and wide receiver, and I didn't think they're all that great to begin with. And then Memphis' quarterback on the other side, he's had a good year. He's kind of a dual threat guy. Threw for 3,000 yards, 23 total touchdowns. I like Memphis to roll in this game. Pretty big. I don't have a problem laying that 7.5 there.
This was one of those games when I said I had a hard time finding information on. I'm with you with those opt-outs. I'm just going to roll with you, Lucas, and I'm going to jump in there and take Memphis. That'll get us down to from the First Responder Bowl to the Birmingham Bowl. You know, I just think of Michigan here. Michigan is playing East Carolina next year. They're non-conference, and right now they're hosting a linebacker from Coastal Carolina this weekend. That's what has me most interested about the Birmingham Bowl. But the Pirates are favored by 8 points, so a big number going up against what's the nickname of Coastal Carolina for $5?
Chanticleers.
Look at that.
Chanticleers. Yep.
Hand him his $5. Somebody. Good job. Well, so who do you like? Do you like the Pirates or the Chanticleers?
I like the spread. I just don't like either side. I think it's a good number here, 8 there. I think this is kind of an interesting matchup. Two teams that recruit against each other a lot, and the Carolinas there, close proximity. It's a bit of a rivalry between the two, although Coastal's been better as of late. But then Coastal lost their head coach, Jeremy Chadwell, leaving to take over for Hugh Freeze at Liberty. Star quarterback Grayson McCall for Coastal is going to play in this game. So that's why, obviously Coastal has some motivation to play well just because it's his last game there before he probably transfers out to somewhere bigger. But I do think East Carolina is the better team as a whole. I don't know. Motivation wise, it was hard for me to gauge who would want to be here and who wouldn't want to be there. So I don't have a bet on this game, but I think it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, the player that I'm familiar with is I watched Coastal Carolina play BYU last year. It was a great game. 2 years ago, one of the great games in college football. They got together during the pandemic. Grayson McCall was on that team, and I know you said he's playing. The status, I think it was up in the air when I was looking at it, but I'll take your word for it. I also would love. I've never been down to the intercoastals down there in Carolina. I have in Florida a lot, but I picture like the Outer Banks and being on there. And so that's why I like Coastal Carolina. The name recognition with Grayson McCall, and I'm getting a lot of points. So let's go. Let's party with the Chanticleers. Okay, here's a Big Ten team in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I don't know how many guarantees there are here because both quarterbacks are in the portal. The Badgers are favored by 3. This game is in Phoenix between the Badgers and the Cowboys. How do you see it?
Yeah, again, just way too many question marks here in this game. Both starting quarterbacks are out, like you mentioned. Both teams also have a number of other key players not playing, either opting out or entering the portal, going to the draft, whatever it may be. Just way too many unknowns. I would lean Wisconsin if I was forced to pick a side, but I just way too many question marks here. I don't know what Wisconsin's quarterback situation is going to be like with Graham Mertz not being there any longer. Spencer Sanders has been really good on the ground when he's healthy for Oklahoma State, but he's kind of been in and out of the lineup. If either of them were playing, I would have a better idea of how to handicap this game. But with both of them not playing, both the backup quarterbacks being relatively unknown commodities, I just don't have anything I could bet in this game, so I'm not going to touch it.
I wouldn't either. But if I had to, take a screwdriver to my face or something saying that you had to bet it, I can tell you that this year, Oklahoma State rose all the way up to be the 11th ranked team in the country. And you and I, in, week 7, week 8, I put my hard-earned money at the end of October with a bet on Oklahoma State against Kansas State. They lost that game 48-0, and they've only had one win after that. I don't know what has gone on there and with Oklahoma State, but there's no way that I would put your money or anybody else's money on Oklahoma State. So I'm picking Wisconsin in this game. And it looks like Luke Fickell, at least he's going to be with the team. I don't know if he's just going to be an observer, but him standing behind the bench while, there's some coaching that could factor in, and Oklahoma State falling flat on their face. There's no way that I can take them. All right, let's get to some more bowl games coming in here. Wednesday, December the 28th, they've got Central Florida and Duke. I think that was a great first-round basketball game a couple years ago where I don't know, did Duke lose that game or they won it? It was an amazing
They barely won it. Last
game.
second shot.
Former Michigan player that transferred.
Hawkins.
That's right. What a great game. Was Zion in that game? Zion Williamson?
I don't remember if that was the Zion year or not, but yeah.
None of those people are factoring in this game, the Military Bowl. It's going to be played in Maryland, another chilly one. So how do you see it with Duke favored by 3 and a big over and under of 62.5?
Yeah, so Riley Leonard there at quarterback for Duke. He just quietly had a pretty good year for the Blue Devils there. Mike Elko has done a really good job resurrecting this Duke defense. He came over from Texas A&M. And most importantly, they're really good at stopping the run on defense, which is exactly what Gus Malzahn and UCF's offense will want to do. John Rice Plumlee, quarterback there for UCF, sort of questionable. Their best receiver, slot guy, Ryan O'Keefe, probably not going to play in this game either. So because of that, and because of the strength of Duke's defense being able to stop the run, I'll take the Blue Devils there to cover the 3.
Yeah, I looked at this one. This was a difficult one to handicap for me. 2 decent quarterbacks, though, when you start taking a look at the numbers as you talked about right there. But I think the game being played in Annapolis, Maryland, Central Florida, it's going to be a lot like the Dolphins playing the Bills this week. They sit around, basking in that warm weather and a nice soft practice fields, throwing the football around. Then they go up to Annapolis and they freeze their ass off. Not like Duke is, in Minnesota or something, but it's further north than Orlando. Give me Duke. I'll lay the points. That's how I handicapped that game. We've got 3 more to look at. And so with that, we get to Kansas and Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl. Lucas, the Hogs favored by 3.
Yep, I will lay the points with the Razorbacks there. Star quarterback KJ Jefferson for Arkansas is going to come back next year. He also announced that he's going to play in this game. So that's really big for their program, their offense specifically. Raheem Sanders, also a running back there for Arkansas, is a really good player for them. They really want to run the ball at Arkansas, and Kansas's defense, if you paid attention to the Big 12 this year, is probably the worst unit. Maybe in all of Power 5. They're terrible on defense. They cannot stop anybody. So with Arkansas liking to pound the rock, Kansas can't stop anything. I will take the Razorbacks to cover the 3 in this one.
I'll take the over, even though it's a big 69. You mentioned that defense. Arkansas, meanwhile, they've got the players on offense, but they lost a ton of key players on defense, and they lost their defensive coordinator. The Jayhawks will play this one like it's their Super Bowl. I could see this one, being something like 50-45, and I am all over the over 69. Okay, when you start talking about, now we're getting into games where people say, hey, this one's going to be a good one. This one is going to be a good one, where the Padres play Petco Park in San Diego. Man, I would love to be at this game. It is the Holiday Bowl in beautiful San Diego, Oregon, and North Carolina. The Ducks a big fat 14-point favorite, though.
Yeah, I think 14 is about right here, giving everything we know about this game. But I like the total here. I want to take the under 72, which might seem backwards, but once I get to the explanation, I think you'll start to understand why. Superstar quarterback for North Carolina, Drake May. I talked about him quite a bit this year. He's going to play in this game for the Tar Heels, but his best target, his key wide receiver, Josh Downs, opted out. He's going to go to the NFL. And their offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, just left to take the same position at Wisconsin. And then on the other side, their offensive coordinator left to take the Arizona State head coaching job as well. And then quarterback Bo Nix is going to play. They have a number of key offensive linemen who are either hurt or not going to play. So I think there's some question marks there for Oregon's offensive line. Both new play callers on offense. Oregon's defense isn't all that good, but with the opt-outs and such for the Tar Heels on offense, I think they'll put together enough stats to keep this total under the 72. So I'll take the under in that one.
Yeah, I just like this one because I knew and had watched both of the quarterbacks in May and Nick, so I was entertained by that. I thought about going with the over, but it's such a big number. It's even bigger than that 69 one with with the Hogs and the Jayhawks. So I'm going to lean with you. I'm going to go big with that one as well because I just couldn't see myself, laying the points or taking the points in that one. So I'm with you on the bet. That gets us to the last one, at least in this particular show. And it's the Texas Bowl. And no surprise, it's going to be played in Houston, Texas, with a Texas team, Texas Tech. And Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss squad, Ole Miss, the Rebels, you got to lay 3.5 with all that stuff going on in Texas. Will you do it?
I'm not going to touch that, but I will go the over here, 69.5. I see this one being a very, very high scoring game. Lane Kiffin obviously staying at Ole Miss is really big for the program. Quinshon Judkins at running back there for Ole Miss, one of the true freshman All-Americans, had a great year for them. But I do not trust the Rebels defense, and I do not trust the Red Raider defense. So while the Red Raiders don't have a ton of household names on offense, they have been able to move the ball effectively in the Big 12 all year long. I think they'll be able to have a good game here, put up a bunch of points on both sides. So I will take the over 69.5 there.
Good bet. This is one of my favorite games to pick once I started taking a look at the numbers. And I thought Ole Miss got distracted late in the season with Lane Kiffin, sniffing around with Auburn. But knowing that he's back, I think that's going to be important. And then Ole Miss really can run the football. And Texas Tech, when you look at their numbers, 90th against the run. That's too big of a disparity to me. I think that Ole Miss will win this one by double figures. One of my favorite bowl picks of the season. Ole Miss and lay the 3.5 in the Texas Bowl. There it is. All right. So that was out of 41 bowl games that'll be played. We picked 26 of them. That's 63% of the bowl games. Lucas, the good news here is when we look at the remaining bowl games, we're going to get to the meat and a lot of outstanding matchups. This was tough. You did a great job working through all those different numbers. You knew a lot more than me about these games. Nice job.
Yeah, a lot of information to go off of. It's really hard to keep track of all this stuff. And the biggest thing I like for bowl games for me is always motivation. It's like who wants to be there and who doesn't. And that's a really hard thing to quantify. That's why I like numbers and analytics. They'll give you one number, but then you'll see the board results, when you're looking through next week, and you'll be like, "Man, what happened there?" So that sort of stuff happens all the time in bowl games. It's a really hard time to handicap sports, but we did our best, and with all the information we had available. And like you said, the next round will be probably a lot more exciting in terms of the games and the programs and stuff that's at stake. So looking excited to that one.
Yeah, well, like Florida, I'm not sure on this particular show I wanted to be here, but I am looking forward to the next one. But your enthusiasm of wanting to be here today and having the knowledge of these games carried the day. Great job. We look forward to talking with you to look at the remaining bowls. So Merry Christmas. And we'll be able to look at New Year's when we next are here on Sharpening the Edge. Lucas, great job.
Absolutely.
See you then. Thanks for watching.